In a quiet forest, filled with tall trees and singing birds, there lived a clever fox named Rowan. Rowan was known across the forest for one special reason. He was not the strongest animal. He was not the fastest either. But Rowan was one of the hardest workers anyone had ever seen. For many seasons, Rowan had been building a beautiful home beneath the roots of a giant tree near the riverbank. Day after day, he collected sticks, leaves, and soft grass. He carefully shaped tunnels and sleeping spaces. He stored berries, nuts, and food for the colder months. Every detail was planned. Every corner was perfect. Many animals passing by would stop and admire his home. The rabbits often said, "Rowan has the safest den in the forest." Even the wise old owl once told him, "You have built something strong and lasting." Rowan felt proud. Not proud in an arrogant way, but proud because he had worked so hard for it. Every evening he would sit outside his den and look at the sunset reflecting on the river, and quietly he would whisper to himself, "This is my home. I built this with my own effort." For a long time, life in the forest remained peaceful. But one evening, dark clouds slowly gathered above the trees. The wind began to move through the forest with an unusual strength. Leaves trembled, branches creaked, the birds flew quickly back to their nests. Something was coming. Soon thunder roared across the sky like a giant's drum. A storm unlike any other began to rise. Rain started falling heavily. At first, it was gentle. Then it became stronger. Soon it was pouring down like endless waterfalls from the sky. The river beside Rowan's den began to swell. The calm water he had known for years started rising higher and higher. Rowan stepped outside his den and looked at the river with worry. "I have never seen it this high," he murmured. The rain continued all night. The water began moving faster, stronger, wild. Before Rowan could react, the river overflowed its banks. A powerful flood rushed through the forest. It crashed against trees. It swept away branches. It carried mud and debris everywhere. Rowan ran back into his den, trying desperately to protect what he could. He grabbed some food. He tried to move things to higher places, but the flood was too strong. Water began pouring into the tunnels of his carefully built home. In only a few moments, the place he had spent years building started collapsing. The tunnels filled with mud. The walls crumbled. Everything was being taken away. Rowan barely managed to escape before the water swallowed the entire den. The next morning, the storm finally stopped. The forest was quiet again, but it looked very different. Broken branches covered the ground. Many trees had fallen, and where Rowan's home once stood, there was nothing, only wet soil and scattered debris. Rowan stood there silently. His eyes moved across the empty space. The place where his safe and warm home had existed for years was gone, completely gone. For several days Rowan wandered through the forest with heavy steps. He barely ate. He barely spoke to anyone. Again and again the same thought filled his mind. "I worked so hard. Why did this happen to me?" One afternoon he walked slowly toward the river and sat on a flat stone. The water now flowed peacefully again, as if nothing had ever happened. Rowan stared at it with tired eyes. Nearby, an old turtle was resting beside the water. The turtle had lived in the forest longer than most animals could remember. He had watched storms come and go for many years. The turtle slowly walked toward Rowan. "You look like someone carrying a heavy storm inside," the turtle said gently. Rowan sighed. "The storm outside took everything from me," he replied. "My home, my food, everything I built." The turtle listened quietly. Then he spoke in a calm voice. "Storms do not come only to destroy." Rowan looked at him with confusion. "They also come to reveal something." "What could this storm possibly reveal?" Rowan asked bitterly. The turtle smiled slightly. "Your strength." Rowan shook his head. "But I lost everything." "No," the turtle said slowly. "You lost things, but you did not lose yourself." Rowan remained silent. The turtle continued, "You still have the mind that built that home. You still have the patience that gathered every stick. You still have the courage that worked through every season." The turtle looked directly into Rowan's eyes. "The storm took your den, but it did not take your ability to build another one." That night, Rowan lay beneath a tree, thinking deeply. Again and again he remembered the turtle's words. The storm had taken his home, but it had not taken his skills. It had taken his comfort, but not his determination. As the sun began rising the next morning, Rowan stood up slowly. For the first time since the storm, his eyes looked determined. "I will build again," he whispered. But this time he chose a different place. He walked further into the forest and searched carefully. Eventually, he found higher ground far away from the river. The soil was strong, the trees were thick, it was safer. Rowan began working immediately. He gathered branches, he dug tunnels into the earth, he carried leaves and grass for warmth. Day after day he worked. Some days his body felt exhausted. Some nights the memories of his old home made him sad. But he kept going, slowly, patiently, one small step at a time. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. Little by little, a new den began to appear beneath the roots of another great tree. This den was different. It was smaller, but it was stronger. It had deeper tunnels and better protection. Rowan stood outside his new home one evening and watched the sunset again, just like he used to. But this time, he understood something important. Sometimes losing everything is not the end of your story. Sometimes it is the moment that teaches you how strong you truly are. The storm had taken Rowan's old life, but it had also given him the chance to rebuild a wiser one. And from that day on, Rowan never feared storms again, because he knew something powerful. A storm may destroy what you build, but it can never destroy the strength that helped you build it. And as long as that strength lives inside you, you can always begin again.